Johnson here. Welcome to another episode of Adronis Downloads from Sirius, where I'll be doing conscious matrix communication with Adronis, as I'll be coming through nearly instantaneously, as we'll be talking on some various subjects here in this particular episode. So I'll go ahead and bring them through and we'll get started. We are here at this time, and we bid you greetings, and thank you very much for the opportunity of this interaction today. I am Adronis from Sirius, sending love and appreciation to all who are tuning in to this particular broadcast, this transmission being brought forward through your internet collective consciousness. We thank you very much for the sharing of this interaction. How may we be of assistance today? Adronis, I'm basically just wanting to ask you about preferred diets. There's a lot of people that are saying that there are certain diets that may be better than others, and other people are saying that other systems of diets may be more preferable pertaining to upliftment, pertaining to exercising the light body. Is there anything that you would like to share or comment on, provide feedback relating to this idea, this philosophy, these understandings of such systems pertaining to diet? Yes, we shall speak relating to the idea of diet on your planet. The really great thing about diet on your planet is the word that you used to call it. That's really the only thing truly fascinating about it. It really doesn't matter too much pertaining to what you wish to eat, what you wish to digest in regards to certain forms of systematic diets. Diets themselves simply are a regiment. They are a routine. They are a systematic property that orients certain forms of products, certain forms of chemical nutrition, certain forms of sustenance that relates to the idea of what is suitable for one individual. And that is completely fine. The whole idea is that you are looking for organic nature. That as long as you have organic nature contained within what you consume, that truly is the key. However, it's not just that. The whole idea is that you're basically just looking to attain appropriate portions of food. That really is the key. Now understand that in times of old, as you would understand it, many of you really, in that sense, ate less and less. There really were not, shall we say, the elaborate states of meals that you would understand. Many of the human beings in the ancient times, in thousands of years past, did not have breakfast or brunch or lunch or dinner or evening snacks, etc. Those are all inventions of consciousness. And basically, the whole idea in regards to your breakfast, to your lunch, to your dinner, etc., are inventions of commercialism. That's basically what they are. You really do not need to have an organization based upon a large amount of portions representing degrees of, shall we say, segments pertaining to consumption based upon these illusions of meals. The whole idea is that if you do decide to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that's fine as well. But just be mindful in regards to the portion of organic food that you are consuming. The real key here is that you are simply talking to your body. The body will basically tell you exactly what is acceptable in its state of consumption, in its state of thirst. The body will never lie to you. Basically, all you're doing is you're utilizing particular techniques that you find are suitable to actually allow certain forms of consumption to take place. If you are, in that sense, a farmer, and you farm a great deal of vegetables, you have a great deal of fruit contained upon your table, and you're basically just looking to find what you would like to have, what you would like to consume. Basically having that vegetable, for example, directly in front of you and just asking your body, would this be an appropriate amount of food for me this evening? And simply allowing your body to answer you in any particular shape, way, or form it needs to allow the consumption or that particular form of lack of consumption relating to that particular organic object to be brought forward. So again, all you're doing is you're asking the body. This is what we would ask all of you to do prior to consuming everything. As long as you're able to talk to your body. If your body says, all right, this little bit of lettuce here might be very, very delicious. You can go ahead also and cut up a little bit of cucumber and add some of that together. And you can also put a little bit of vinaigrette in there, as this also helps with toxins as well. All right, is there anything else that you would like, body? No, this will be sufficient. That's it. That's what you consume. The body has told you exactly what it needs in that given moment. It doesn't have to be a regiment of breakfast. Does not have to be a regiment of lunch. Does not have to be a routine of dinner or supper, as you call it. It had nothing to do with that at all. It's simply that you addressed the body of what it requires in regards to the state of sustenance. That's it. And that becomes your quote-unquote diet, is asking the body diet. That's our recommendation for you. It really doesn't matter in regards to the orientation of foods that you eat. Whether you feel that you are a raw vegan, whether you feel that you are a vegetarian, whether you even decide to ingest meats at times. It's all up to you, because believe it or not, there are certain points to, shall we say, the relations of certain meats that are required for certain people. Now, this is not meant to offend vegetarians. This is not meant to offend vegans. But the whole idea is that you're listening to the body, because there are certain forms of chemical compounds contained within that particular layer of meat, shall we say, at that specific moment that is suitable for the necessary breakdowns, whether it may be a piece of fish, or shall we say a piece of chicken, or whatever it may be, whether it may be eggs. That's another example as well too. If it feels that the body is able to reciprocate the appropriate amount of ingestion and digestion without there being conflict, that therefore becomes the, shall we say, catalyst to your food intake in that moment. The body is telling you, you don't need to worry, Joe, you don't need to worry, Jenny, I can absorb this, I can digest this, and the great majority of the compounds contained within the sustenance is greatly going to enrich the body. All right, go for it. Now again, we're not looking to offend anybody here. If you do not prefer meat, then you do not prefer meat. You do not have to have meat in reality. You do not have to have just strictly a vegetarian diet in reality. You do not need to just have a raw vegan diet in reality. You do not need to have just a strict paleo diet in reality. Those are all elements of belief. And again, belief is simply representing the idea of what you feel you have adopted pertaining to the routine of your own natural consumption. Nothing wrong with that, again. But the question is there something appropriate that you can utilize to feed the body? Is to listen to the body. And so our science of the simple is telling you that the diet most appropriate to follow is the listening to the body diet, whatever that may be, however that may come, based upon portions, based upon organic integrity properties pertaining to the consumptional object and, shall we say, liquid in question. That's the whole idea. Listen to the body. Follow what the body needs. The body will never lie to you. It will never deceive you. The ego wants to get in the way, and it wants to create barriers pertaining to certain foods or to particular archetypes that follow strict dietary regimes. But it's never necessary. Listen to the body. All right? Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Adronis. Moving on. There's a question that had come up from somebody that was talking about how the separation of positive and negative energies started, how this has happened, and how there can be a reintegration in regards to positive and negative energy. Can you elaborate a little bit more in regards to how this all occurred relating to positive and negative energy cycles, and how it in that sense can truly be reunified in that way? Yes, we will speak in regards to the idea of the positive and the negative energy separation. This again occurred in regards to the original one thought. The original one thought was basically attempting to express itself, and that it utilized certain forms of thought generation based upon the states of androgyny. simply what we're referring to as, shall we say, aspects of sexlessness or genderlessness. Really, the universe is without gender. The universe is without form. There really is no archetype pertaining to what the universe is. It simply is the microcosm of the macrocosm of all that is. However, if you feel that whatever you wish to call the universe in regards to a he or in regards to she, or if you wish to call God a he, or if you wish to call goddess a she, it really doesn't matter. That's all suitable, and that's fine, as reality is by interpretation. But really, when we're looking at this, we're looking at the idea of positive and negative as segregation, as a particular point of certain levels of polarity that were assigned in regards to other forms of, shall we say, dimensional thought-based experimentation. As dissension occurred more in regards to, shall we say, the realms of the quasi-physical, descending deeper into the realms of the physicalized, the original one thought began to fragment, it began to splinter, it began to create shards in regards to its presence. And through the forms of invention relating to the innovations of thought, this is what magnetized the demagnetization between that of which you would know as negative and positive. Simply through further segregation, simply through certain splintering of experimentation and of, shall we say, innovation, that was continuously mitosed in that sense, creating thought mitosis with many of these particular forms, that the roots themselves excavated deeper and deeper and deeper into the tunnels of quasi-physical to physical reality. And that much of the positive and negative orientations were simply adopted based upon the forms of belief, based upon the certain states of expression that oriented what is pertaining to, shall we say, collective intent, that was also brought in regards to individualized, magnetized intent, that then continued to fracture more of the energies that represented the positive and the negative. The positive and the negative contain many layers. There is not, shall we say, just the basis of how all positive and all negative can be reassigned. You're basically looking at the continual truncation, the continual fragmentation pertaining to, shall we say, subparents, or shall we say, more subcategories of what the positive and the negative represent. Basically, what you're doing is through those roots of the positive and the negative, that they are reorientating themselves to return back into the original one thought. As they return to the original one thought, there is no longer segregation, there is unification. So, what is it that you can truly utilize to represent yourself in wholeness rather than seeing everything in positive and negative? That all comes to the state of observation. When you're looking at something positive or when you're looking at something negative, you're simply looking at the basis of assignment. Assignment based upon belief is what creates the continual fractures of these positive and or negative situations that continue to propagate. Your own assignment, your own meaning is what gives the thought form that state of existence. That may literally be, shall we say, intercepted by the viewer, that then creates meaning in regards to their own interpretation of what that thought form represents. Even the thought form itself that was originally magnetized by a creator will be handed to somebody else and inherited a new meaning. So again, whether positive or whether negative, it really doesn't matter. The thought forms still form the basis of meaning based upon the viewer. When the viewer is able to take that particular thought form and condense it back into neutrality, that particular thought form is no longer condensed in regards to the fracture of positive or negative belief or positive or negative oriented states of meaning. It now becomes neutralized. It now becomes liquefied rather than solidified. This is going back to what we have referred to as the way of squares. That again, all foundation pertaining to squares in that sense are the product of belief. When you're looking at belief, you're looking at the law of squares. This is basically what represents the idea of positive and negative inflicted forms of energy that have been magnetized by thought. They all contain certain fragments and variations of positive and negatively oriented energies. simply because there's separation in regards to one viewer or many viewers that have observed this as co-creation are functioning in this way to basically continue to cluster and magnetize meanings in defining what this particular thought form represents. So this is how positive and negative in that sense had become started. Continual observance at first, based upon certain forms of thoughts that then functioned in new innovations that branched down extremes in regards to belief. So belief would literally be, quote-unquote, the culprit, meaning would literally be the, quote-unquote, culprit pertaining to much of these separations, these segregations, these fractures, these fragments of thought energy that then become thought form, that then base themselves into the realm of belief through the law of squares. As you move more into the state of neutrality, as you become the observer, you move into the state, you move more into the law of circles. So you are basically taking those rigid, solid edges of the law of squares, and you are taking all those squares and you are reassembling them into neutrality, making them circular. No longer any corners, no longer edges to where definitions can hide. It is all based upon the complement of the infinite. That is basically how the positive and the negative come together in unification. But again, it's working its way back up through the roots in regards to all the parents, sub-parents, sub-sub-parents, sub-sub-sub-parents, etc. that was originally magnetized by the original thought cluster that created this categorization of certain thoughts that fit into this theme. So therefore, the positive and the negative now become inert based upon the idea of you being neutral, of you being the observer, of you following the law of circles rather than immersing yourself into the illusion of the belief, which then propagates the idea of the law of squares. This is the whole idea in regards to unification, of unifying the positive and the negative energy in regards to the circular format rather than to the belief which promotes positive and negative energy through the law of squares. That is the understanding. Thank you very much, Adronis. And finally, I have one more question relating to the idea of what is real and what is not real. There's a lot of, I guess you could say, opinions or, expressions in that way of people who feel that there are certain beings that do exist and that there are certain beings that don't exist. Is there anything in reality that you would consider to be unreal? Anything in reality that you would be able to consider is anti to the idea of what is considered to be real? We, in that sense, grasp your presence, grasp your question in that sense of what you're attempting to ask. The whole idea is that there is really nothing that's unreal. Now, that's not, in that sense, unwarranting the definition. Because what is it that you further have yet to understand is that which you do not yet understand to be real. And so the unreal is simply the category of the unknown. The unknown literally becomes the unreal because there's no format or relationship pertaining to what you understand to be real. As experience is the catalyst into making everything feel real through the five senses and of course through your own extrasensory perceptions as well. This is basically what's categorized in regards to what you understand as some form of tangibility, or even if it's intangible, it still grants the particular degree of understanding it as a fathoming. But the whole idea here is that the only thing that's unreal is the unknown, that which you have yet to pursue in regards to experiential relationship. That's not to say that it is, in that sense, non-existent. It's simply unknown. So when you're looking at the unreal, you're just looking at that which has yet to be magnetized to be defined in relationship as real. And again, this is what many of you on your planet are discovering. Many of you do not believe the idea that there are devils or that there are demons or that there are elves or that there are leprechauns or that there are gnomes or that there are fairies or that there are pixies or that there are extraterrestrials or that there are angels or that there are vampires or that there is Santa Claus or that there is the Easter Bunny, etc., etc. They are all based upon, shall we say, the idea of feeling of what's unknown. Again, looking at the intangible, feeling, well, I don't believe Santa Claus is real, simply represents the idea of a belief. So again, the feeling that it's not unreal It's more so on the idea of the category of what's surreal. So again, this is what we're attempting to correct by certain forms of understandings of what you would consider to be real, surreal, and unreal. So the whole idea is that through those particular beings that we have just named have all been established in regards to a state of relationship. So that particular state of relationship is not saying that it is unknown, it is not stating that it is unreal, it is simply within the particular form of many of you to be surreal. The surreality in regards to the feeling of believing that there is no such thing as Santa Claus is not the point of feeling that it is unreal, but it is the point of feeling that it is surreal. It does not apply into my reality, even though you're all magnetizing imitations of this particular being every Christmas time. The whole idea is that yes, there are particular beings that exist in many different coplanar realities that actually, shall we say, represent the resemblance of the energy of the being that you would know as Santa Claus or Saint Nicholas in that sense. Those particular beings exist, but because they're stuck through many of you in a surreal nature, they will never be identified in regards to the validity of belief. And so therefore they remain surreal. Anything that we would attempt to label to you would simply be that of the unreal because there's no relationship to the label that we'll give you. We could basically give you the idea of the following label. Zava, Zava, Zoro, Zara. Many of you will go, what's that? What was it you just said? We don't understand. Exactly. And that therefore becomes unreal because you have no label or placement of relationship to making that real or even surreal. Because there's nothing coming together on a collective intent of a cluster that makes that form in the category of the real or the surreal. So therefore it becomes unreal. Simply because it's unknown and there's no association to the label of its relationship. So that's the whole idea. These are what you could, in that sense, experiment with between what you know yourself to be real in regards to what you can, shall we say, share coplanar pertaining to what you understand exists within your reality on the physical level. You can also understand what is surreal from that which has been enacted in regards to your legends, in regards to your folklore, in regards to your histories, in regards to other dimensional understandings of the supernatural. That may not be coplanar with your physical reality, but there is relationship in regards to the basis and understanding of its existence. Therefore, that becomes the surreal. As the label that we had just utilized has no credence pertaining to the validity of how you could assign relationship validity to that particular label in regards to anything understandable, that then becomes the unreal. So the unreal simply represents that which has yet to be individually or collectively touched through the state of experience to gain a rapport of meaning to understand its nature of reality. That's the basis that we leave you with. The whole idea is that the surrealness, in that sense, has the capability to be real, but it will only be real based upon those who are the experiencers. There are those in that sense who have felt that they have connections with elves, that they have had connections with fairies, that they have had connections with pixies, that they have had connections with vampires. Do they all exist? Yes. But you all decide exactly that, well, that's too surreal for me to believe. And so they remain in that category based upon the viewer, based upon the observer, based upon the continuum. That's the whole idea. So it's up to you to decide exactly what you find to be real, what you find to be surreal. It's all within your hands. We're not asking you or yourselves to believe that we ourselves are real, that we function within the coplanar reality of real with you. We understand that Brad is, and that you are all shared together in this coplanar feeling, but through ourselves, some of you may still interpret this as the surreal, and we're perfectly all right with that. All right? So we thank you very much for the opportunity of this most wonderful interaction with all of you today, contained within your internet collective consciousness via this broadcast. Thank you very much. I am Adronis from Sirius. Much love and appreciation to you all, and we will speak to you again in the moment of the real. Thank you very much.